President Murphy.
All right, a couple of points. First of all, I honor all the sponsors of the bill. I don't have a problem with this being brought to the floor. In fact, we had every opportunity to not put this on the agenda officially and we wanted to be able to discuss this openly with all of you. But there's a couple of points that we want to put out there for you. Mostly, there's two procedural points. First of all, as they mentioned, we already did pass a budget. And I know that it's not intended to, Senator Bolt had mentioned, either you were a new member or a couple of these individuals were not members at the time of that passing, so I also understand that. However, as an association, we did pass a budget. There's a reason we budget. It's because we need to plan how much we're going to spend throughout the year. We need to be organized while we're going through the year. While I understand that the intent behind this, I don't think it's malintent by any stretch of the imagination. I've always had reservations, but what we ended up discussing and really looking at was the benefit that this gives, not to the association itself as far as its members, but its reputation with the university and for students here on campus. So I do want to point out that while the budget was passed, and when it was passed, we did have some fruitful discussion actually about this and about other things on the budget, including the fact that we already cut $33,000 from last year's budget. That's a lot of money, especially in Student Government Association terms. We cut a significant portion of our budget. We put this line item at a line item that is a reasonable line item for past associations, is a reasonable line item for an event of this size, and it's the absolute ceiling that we would spend. Absolutely, our prerogative is always to do everything at the utmost expense for students. So that means we are always going to be fiscally responsible in what we're spending. The reality comes down to, if we keep moving around budgets, we lose the structure of our budget. And with that, it really becomes difficult for people like Executive Director Martin to be able to do her job. This ultimately is her job. And I understand Senator Olensky pointed this out too, that if the money is not in this line item, then it's up to the discretion of the Executive Director to put that into a different line item. And he didn't want to step on her toes, but ultimately this is stepping on her toes. This is an event that she's already planning, has been planning for some time, is already reserved a room for, is already starting to reserve food and get food orders done. We already are spending this money, and this is her job. This is the purview of the executive branch, and that is our responsibility to make sure that this is spent wisely. And I really, really struggle with the idea of challenging the officer that's supposed to be doing this job. It really becomes, I understand that you're challenging the amount of money that's being spent, but in reality, this is her job to do this. And it's her responsibility to execute this event in a way that makes sense to her, not to everyone in the association, because we can't go and show you every receipt. If we did, we'd be in these meetings for like days, okay? We need to be fiscally responsible and trust her with that fiscal responsibility. And so I do struggle with that point, because, I mean, if we're not amending the budget for if we're amending the budget for non-emergency reasons, we start to really become less effective. But really, I think she already planned it, so I think I appreciate what we're trying to do. I do, but I think when particularly the main argument is that this doesn't affect students. In particular, there's line 24 and 25, whereas this event funded entirely by the student fee dollars stands to benefit members of the Student Government Association and their families exclusively, not the student body as a whole. I would completely disagree with that line for a couple of reasons, but mostly because this event is not solely for the Student Government Association. Just like other organizations on campus, which we already talked about a little bit, though I would remind the association that we are not ARH, we are not BSU, and we are not UPB, though we do similar activities, especially when it comes to passing. The reality is we are also a larger organization with extreme amounts of responsibility that we need to be able to work with the university. We invite the president of the university, we invite trustees to this at times, we also invite vice presidents of the university to this event. This is an event that we honor very closely to our hearts. This is something that is not necessarily for SGA, and so we can have a free dinner on students. Though, I would also point out that President Bowman, pretty much every night, has dinners on student fee dollars and on general tuition, on GR dollars, at his home, hosting meals. And there's a reason, because you gain a lot from having meals with people. You break bread, you enjoy company, you learn things about the other individuals, you learn things about the organizations, you build a relationship. And do I think that it's beneficial to the entire student body to be able to sit at a table with the president of the university and the vice presidents of the university and be able to have a meal with them? I absolutely think it is beneficial for all students. Because as an organization, we are the representatives of all students. Do we need to have good relationships with all these individuals? Absolutely. That is our sole responsibility, is to be able to work for students to provide a better university for them. Now, I understand completely where the authors are coming from. However, I completely disagree that if we're going to be looking at this budget, I don't think this is the time to do it. I don't think it's responsible to do it now. And I also worry about the intent as far as if it's really for students, and I think it is for students. And so I will also put the point out there that if you're looking at ceremonial type things, there's lots of things that this university does. I already mentioned Bowman's. We also do graduations, which cost literally tens of thousands of dollars, and we have paid for those. And so I call into question whether or not this is really the appropriate time to do this. I call into question whether or not this is really appropriate to really challenge the executive director, who is the executive director, and her responsibilities, and I challenge really the idea of what's going on as far as why we're doing this. And so I really encourage you to vote no on this resolution, and I hope that we can really move past this and continue to plan the event as we did, because I do believe that it would cause more headaches than solve any problems at this point. And with that, I yield.
Senator Clayton.
Wow. All right. Hi, guys. I have lots of notes here, so bear with me. I just want to say I trust the executive director. I think through the social chair of your sorority. I was. So she has planned events for numerous amount of girls, all this stuff already. But generally speaking, any budget you can plan any event. The more money, obviously, the more lavishing. The less money, less lavishing, obviously. But it's really about the ceremony itself, regardless. Just remember, this is a ceremony. And I believe we do give money from student fees with fee board to other organizations, if I'm correct. So why not allot a little bit to ourselves too? We are an organization. And with one of our pillars, school spirit, this is a tradition, just like school spirit. Passing is a tradition, and we uphold that. So I believe we should vote no on this. I just think we should keep the budget how it is, just try to spend as little as you can, which obviously I believe our ED will do so, because she has done so in the past with her own organizations. And it's better to have more and spend less of that than to go over your budget and to really mess up. So I believe we should keep it how it is and just try to spend as little of that as we can, and that I yield.
Senator Robles.
All right, I've got a few points here. I'm a sponsor of this resolution. I believe very firmly in its ideals. I'll try not to say remarks that have been said before. To address the issues of the budget being changed, there's no reason that the budget can't be changed at any time. If the Assembly feels that part of the budget is unreasonable, or if the Assembly feels that part of the budget could be changed to better serve students, that's well within our rights and responsibilities. Part of how we're seen as an organization is what we do with our money. Our money is part of how we speak, what we really want to be seen as an organization. By removing $3,000 from this and putting it into an area of our budget where it can be used directly for student programs, it certainly says something to our desire to really be a force to do good for students, to plan programs, to make a meaningful, an even more meaningful difference than we've made in the past. We need to think of students first. We need to think of doing things directly for students first, rather than this idea that if we do a large ceremony, if we build up, if we build up the prestige of SGA, that we'll be able to do more in the future. It sometimes is better to do more in the present for the students, rather than these incremental little changes that will be seen from a larger event. We are the students' representatives. We're here to cast a vote based on what they would want, and I think it is pretty clear what they would want. They would want us to spend the money on them in the present, not spend the money on this event, which may indeed build a little bit of prestige, that we're able to have a 3-course meal, we're able to have a bartender, and that sort of thing. But I do think students would rather us spend money directly on programs that would be good for them. We do need to consider fiscal responsibility, as President Markey has said previously, but this is very fiscally responsible to move some of our funds to different areas so that they can be better used for our association. The money that we get is from student fees, so I think everybody knows that we have to use them as wisely as possible. We have to do what's in the best interest of the students, and that's why I'm a sponsor of this resolution. This is why I believe we need to adjust the funding from passing the gavel, and that's why I encourage everyone to vote yes on this resolution. I yield.
All right, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have plenty of things to say, and I'm going to stumble over my words because I wrote a lot of stuff down and not because it's expensive. So hear me out. Okay, I think Senator McMahon already touched on this, but since there are a lot of senators already supporting this bill, I'm going to touch on it again. You're assuming that Executive Director Martin is going to spend $5,500, which is what the budget, you think the budget is saying. She doesn't necessarily have to spend that amount of money. She could end up spending $2,500. But the point being that if she doesn't spend that $5,500, that money is still going back to the university. And I think that people have asked questions like, well, does it go directly back to the students? This is your university. This is your school. You will be alumni. If it goes back to the university, it somehow goes back to you. So try to consider that one. Also, as President Markey already said, we put over $30,000 in the budget. I have never seen that, and this is my third association. Don't call me grandma, but I've never seen this. It's crazy. $30,000 is a great amount, and I don't see why there has to be such drastic changes made. I can understand, you know, $4,000, $4,500, somewhere on there maybe, but I just feel like this number was pulled out of nowhere. No one said anything about doing research on this. No one said anything about looking up prices for food. Asking ARH does not count. Okay, it counts, but just because ARH is...
I would remind the Secretary and everybody to keep their comments directed at the Chair. Thank you. As well as, if we get to repeat information, this goes for everyone, you may simply say, I agree with X, Y, Z. Thank you.
Hold on. Okay, I can understand that talking to ARH, that's helpful and everything. But did anybody ask, exactly where they got their decorations from? How much decorations? How much money on decorations? Just because ARH did it one way doesn't mean we can do it exactly the same as they did. So I don't feel like enough research was done on this in order to cut the amount as much as it has been cut. I don't feel like you came prepared enough with this resolution to bring this to us. I don't understand it. Also, I wish someone who sponsored the bill would answer where $2,500 came from. I'm kind of thinking that was pulled out of thin air. Also, like I said, there are differences between organizations. Don't start saying that we're going to do it exactly how one is, because no matter how hard you try, you're probably not going to do that. And also, I think this is my last comment, I think. I would just like to know if the 6 sponsors are going to work to make this budget happen. Because as I'm, understanding here, everyone is saying, oh, well, Executive Director Martin's going to do a great job. She'll do a wonderful job. No one is saying, saying, oh, we're going to make sure that we provide her with the amount of money that is needed in order to buy, X, Y, and Z. No one has said anything about that. And, oh, I promise this is the last one.
Point of order. This is kind of getting really hostile. Is this kosher?
No, I'm fine. I'm not hostile. I'm just...
I would be careful, Secretary Collar.
Okay. Okay, alright, this last comment can be really chill. I know that Senator Rubashkin mentioned that he didn't think that this is what students would want, but I also don't remember hearing anything about anybody talking to constituents about it, anybody getting constituent responses about it, and if they did, I would like someone to speak up on how much constituent response they got and what the constituents said. And my apologies for being so involved and opinionated.
Thank you.
And